Welcome to the Endless Entrepreneurs YouTube channel. My name is Luke Henson. If you are new to my channel, thank you for stopping in. I am a eBay seller, Poshmark seller, used to dabble on Mercari, also sell on Amazon FBA. I have real estate as another side business. I have long-term rental properties, and then I also work full-time in the corporate world. So I use this channel to kind of document those triages of revenue, primarily centered around reselling and reselling content. You see by the title of this video, we're going to talk free shipping on eBay in 2019, why I've made the switch to that. And this is always a topic. I mean, over the last, I've been reselling for like a decade, really seriously, for probably like five and a half years now. Over the last 4 years, this has been a topic of ping-ponging back and forth, especially on eBay. Free shipping, not free shipping. Now we have free returns, so do you offer free returns? It's kind of the debate back and forth. I've charged shipping for almost 2 years straight, and I very recently, in the end of January, switched to free shipping for a couple very specific reasons, and I want to dive into those and really just talk about, each year and each month that it goes by, right, the platform evolves, buyers evolve, the market evolves, and this is a specific, I guess, setting, right, or way that you operate your business that has a big impact on your sell-through, on your success. And I think it's an important thing to always be evaluating and talking about and making sure that you're aligned to your business the right way, that you've assessed why it makes sense to have one or the other, and just really think about that moving forward. That's what I'm going to talk about today. People are filtered in. This is live, so if you're watching the replay later, thanks for finding the channel and watching it. Feel free throughout, definitely drop your feedback through the comments. I try to get to them throughout if they apply. Otherwise, you can ask any questions and I'll handle them at the end. Always try to do a little bit of Q&A on these videos when I can go live. And then if you have comments after the fact, definitely leave them. I like to hear and see people's feedback on what they're doing. I always can learn from you. You'd be surprised how much I learn from the people that watch and comment and contribute. That's why this is a community. So it's a very nice thing when people can take the time to share. See Tanya in the chat there, Thrifty Treasures. Thanks for stopping in. I'm going to jump right in. I like to just jump into the content first thing. We can have more of that conversation at the end. But one of the primary reasons that I'm making the switch, and like I said, for 2+ years, I've charged shipping, and the way I charged shipping before was like a very flat rate. So I would do basically $6.99 flat rate for every item, and I primarily sell apparel. And it's always been, historically, it's been used apparel, thrifted from Goodwill, Salvation Armies, all those type of things. Did a lot of blazers and suits and jeans and things like that. That usually most of them just fit in a flat rate envelope, so it's easy just to price at $6.99. And over the last year, I've secured a supplier. I've switched, pretty much my whole model has switched to new items that are liquidation, primarily activewear like Nike and Adidas and Under Armour and things like that. But it's all new with tags or new without tags. And so the product mix and what I'm selling has completely changed direction. The way I source, the way I process. I now outsource all my photography. I outsource all my listing. Really, the only thing I handle in-house is the sourcing. So receiving the pallet, sorting it, getting it out to the people who do it, and then the fulfilling, so shipping when it sells. So when I took a look at my business and the products I was selling, I really expected when I made the switch to this, and it was about mid-May last year when I really, started to connect with the supplier, and over the summer kind of really connected with them. And now it's a really, steady supply. I thought my sell-through was going to be a lot faster because, selling new items, these are pretty like in-demand items. It's not like I'm selling a lot of like one-off brands or like private label brands. Like, this is stuff that's like you go to Dick's Sporting Goods or any type of sporting goods store like that, and you expect to find it, and you expect to pay top dollar for it. I get North Face, things like that. Like, you expect it just to kind of fly off the shelves as long as it's competitively priced. And I did a lot of research, over the last several months on my products. And when you calculate the all-in price, so if I have let's just say I have this Under Armour shirt listed, it's Under Armour V-neck dry fit, and I have it listed for $19.99 plus shipping. Then my all-in price on my shipping in the $19.99 was the same as my competitors. Like, I was competitively priced with them, but they were offering free shipping. And I didn't do a deep enough research early on to be like, oh, that's, some of them are doing it, some of them aren't. Like, I just was looking first page results and just kind of, pricing off it like I always have done that. That's how I always know my pricing. I look at solds in the recent last 30 to 60 days, the first couple pages, kind of get a feel for what things are selling for. And I price somewhere, in that upper like 2/3. Because I like to be like, I don't want to be top of the market, but I don't want to be bottom of the market. I kind of like being in that upper 2/3, like 75% of the max price kind of thing, just to keep sell-through going. But I noticed like my sell-through pretty much was the same as my used items, which with used items, my general philosophy was I'm buying a lot of one-offs that I know the value of, but I need a specific buyer to find it. And I'm okay, kind of more long tail approach of the blazers, the suits, some of the really, high-end jeans and things like that. I'm okay waiting, right? Like I'm okay paying $5 and selling it for 60 and it taking a while. Like I'm totally fine with that. So that slower sell-through was fine. But then when I switch to these new goods and I'm outlaying a lot more cash, like when I'm paying for 4 or 5 pallets at a time, I'm not going to a thrift store and spending $200. Like I'm spending $10,000, I'm spending $15,000. Like I'm spending a big amount of cash to get this inventory in, and for it not to be turning fast was creating cash flow issues. And it was like I never had cash flow issues before because I have my own job. Like my 9 to 5 pays for all my bills and some. Like I've always kept all my business and snowballed it into all my business profit in the business and snowballed into infrastructure, whatever. And so then all of a sudden I was like, man, like this, I just thought this should be turning faster. And so over, the last 4 or 5 months, I've really started to evaluate, like, is my pricing competitive? And it was. Is my presentation competitive and comped? And for the most part, it was. Towards the end of last year, it started to slip a bit as I got scale and really had a lot of different people doing photography. I've reeled that back in. So I didn't really factor that. It was a little bit, and on Poshmark specifically, it definitely was hurting. So I've corrected that, which has helped the sell-through. But the big thing that was left was the shipping piece. And so I started really thinking about, and this goes to my second point, right, is so I had a different product, but now I have what I didn't realize is I have a different customer. In my mind, I was like, apparel shoppers are apparel shoppers, but they're not. Like it's a completely different customer for the most part. Like someone coming to look, and this is what I had to really dissect and think about and strategize around, and really, I don't know, kind of just change my thought process that I've had for a half a decade, right? Selling apparel was, I am now catering more to the Amazon buyer than I am to the used clothing person on eBay. And when you think about it, like when someone comes to eBay and they're looking for used clothing, they're willing to buy used clothing. Typically, they're looking for a really good deal. They're looking for something very specific, a specific brand that if they went to get at retail, it would be tough. Yeah, it's probably way too much. Even buying it new, but on eBay is still like marked up too much. So they're willing to buy it used. And so it's like they don't care as much about whether it's free shipping or not, because in their mind, they're going in retail store, it costs me $200. New with tags online, I can get it for $150, but man, I'd rather get it for under $100. And so they're just going in and going, I just want my all-in price to be X. And so, they're probably sorting, and I'm just hypothesizing here, right? They're sorting on highest to lowest with price plus shipping when they're searching on eBay, right? Or lowest to highest, actually, probably reverse. And so that's that mentality of the used clothes buyer for the most part, that used apparel. Whereas now I'm catering to these new new clothing buyers, they're used to going to Amazon and being like, I'm looking for a golf polo for my trip next weekend, and I expect to pay somewhere in this range. I don't want to pay shipping. I just want it to get here, and I want it to get here in a reasonable amount of time, right? They're probably used to Prime, which unfortunately eBay hasn't figured out a way to deliver like that, which they probably never will. But in any case, like they're expecting free shipping just as a part of the game, right? Every new item they've ever bought on Amazon, they've never paid shipping for, right? That's the mentality now, which is totally fine. Like I have nothing against that. But that's just what they expect. And, the negative side for me from a P&L bottom line perspective is I got used to charging shipping. So when I would get returns for doesn't fit, the buyer paid the return shipping. Now that I offer free shipping, if it doesn't fit, like I pay for the shipping back. And so that's just kind of, that free returns I'll touch on here at the end because I do offer that now as well. But now my buyers coming in and they just expect that to be there. Now, what I had to do was I couldn't just make the switch to free shipping. So first of all, I was skeptical, but I made the plunge in January. I was like, I'm going to test it. So I switched everything to free shipping that was new. The other thing I did is I went through, I added in, so I had a flat price of $6.99 of shipping. I added $6.99 back to the price, and then I flipped it to free shipping. So I basically was price neutral, but now I had free shipping. And then I went through every single item and I recomped it, right? So I redid research on what the market was at for those items. Repriced some of them higher in some cases, repriced some of them lower in some cases. But really I was a lot more exact. And instead of being at like a 75% of the market, I shifted down to probably say like 65%, just that little bit of the drop. So definitely conceding a little margin. but still big enough margin for me to be happy with what I, my margin goals are. And like, not kidding, and I'm not trying to like over exaggerate or sell anyone on this. On trying to switch to free shipping, because if you're not selling new tax items, I really don't believe you should. If you're selling used one-off Goodwill, Goodwill type stuff, I think you should charge shipping, and I would stay charging shipping if that was the case. But I switched that, and I'm in the shortest month, February, so 28 days, I'm on pace to shatter my best month ever as a reseller. Items that weren't moving like at all, like I have a lot of Umbro stuff, things like that, like smaller dollar, like flying off the shelves. Buyers buying 4, 5, 6 items in bundles now. Like, just extraordinary, the change. I mean, it was like someone just put gasoline on my store. And I think there's many factors to that, right? One is the free shipping for sure. I'm convinced that is a big piece of it, because I now am in line with my competitors. I'm also slightly below my competitors in price, so that's moving. I switched to free returns, which I think boosted me in the algorithm. And selling new with tag stuff is a lot easier to do free returns, in my opinion, just because my defect rate is so much less. Like, I'm not going to overlook a lot of things, and I'm going to have a lot fewer. I think the buyer is a little better because they're just looking for the new tag stuff. So yeah, like, I'm a little more comfortable. I think that helped. And then lastly, the repricing really, really, really helped, because it freshened all of my listings as I was changing the business policies, as I was changing the return policies, and then I was repricing very competitively at market, in that environment as it is today. I just have seen drastic results. So it's like, it is a boost, but you have to be careful. And that was why I really wanted to make the video, because a lot of people are like, oh, you do free shipping now. They see my Instagram posts, because I'll occasionally post some solds. I'm like, yeah, I made the switch. And I really wanted to explain why, because I don't think we have a tendency in the reseller community is we see a couple of the personalities or people who put out content, and we model everything we do after them. And we don't take a lot of consideration to what's unique about my business that's separate from theirs. And I think in a lot of cases, like, my business is pretty unique in that I'm ordering liquidation of very hot brands with a stiffer competition than I had when I was doing used one-off. So I just want to caution a lot of you, don't go running and switching to free shipping right now just because I did it, right? Especially if you're selling one-off stuff. Really evaluate what you're selling in business. Evaluate what your competition looks like. And I think as a reseller, like, just really owning it right now, I was very, very poor when I switched to liquidation. I did a very poor job in seriously evaluating my competition in the marketplace. And I injected a lot of listings into it without putting a lot of research into the pricing and the business policies that were required to be effective and successful in there. So I'm really glad I took the time to do that. I'm seeing, like I said, drastic results, which is great. The other thing that I've really noticed that I had to play around with was promoted listings. So being that I have a lot of multi-quantity items and new tagged items, having a long-standing listing with lots of quantity, there's a huge benefit to playing around with promoted listings. There's a huge benefit. The more sales you make with that listing, the higher it gets in the search, and it stays higher in the search. I had to play around with the percentages, and I still haven't perfected it, and I'm always testing. But like, there isn't like a one size fits all for the promoted listings either, right? Like, in general, I would say, like, my thought process is very similar to like a Chris over at Daily Fireman, is like 1% is better than 0%, because now I effectively have double the exposure from like I have one promoted listing version and I have my regular version. So no matter what, there's 2 listings basically effectively. But then, like, there are some cases where some of my more competitive multi-quantity products, like going to 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, who knows what percentage based on my margin and what makes sense for me, has enormous value. Because if I run it at 10% for a month and rack up a bunch of sales on something I have 50 quantity of, and I know I might replenish it, then I can back off it, and I've moved it up the page, and I can just monitor, like, hey, when I search this, I'm position 7, right? And I can drop it a little bit and see if I'm holding, and kind of tweak back and forth like that. So I think those analytics are important. I think using that to your advantage is important. As I shift more and more into multi-quantity, because it's becoming more of a norm with the stuff I'm getting, I can be very strategic about that. And the free shipping has just been another like gateway to allow me to do that, because it's just another competitive edge I have with people selling the same product. Someone asked what my return rate's been. It's still held under, I was like 2.5% for all of 2018, and I haven't seen a spike in it. Granted, it's super short sample, like, right, I'm basically a month in, I'm 4 weeks into since I made these changes. So really hard to be like, oh, it's going to hold. It might go a little higher. I don't know. I'm curious to see how 2019 goes for that, though, Drummer. That's a great question. Is will it spike or will it stay the same? It'll be really interesting to see that. I'm just going to jump in the comments here for a second. Someone said, if I sold nothing but clothing, I would offer free shipping. Everyone who shops online and buys clothing expects free shipping these days. Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point. I think being in tune with the buyer mentality is going to be critical as a reseller, especially moving forward, right? Like the marketplace is always evolving. The expectation of the buyer is always evolving, right? You got to adapt or or not survive. But I do think there are niches where it's completely acceptable to be charging shipping. If I sold vintage electronics, if I sold heavy items, I would charge shipping. Like I wouldn't mess around with free shipping, or I would just have to build it all into the price. So Milcap says, I make more when I charge for shipping, helps pad out low best offers. Yeah, I think like that's very true for like the use one-off stuff. In my case, and this is what I'll say, like I maybe item for item was making more, but when you talk about net profit and sell-through, like on a monthly basis and cash flow wise, I was not making more. My sell-through is up like 35% since switching. Like this isn't like, oh, I creeped up a little bit. Like 35% my sell-through is up from on a monthly basis. So over a 4-week period since I switch, up 35%. Like that's ridiculous. Like, I mean, I haven't been able to keep up with the shipping. Like I'm going nuts trying to just to stay. Like I'm shipping out 20 packages a day basically right now. Like I'm just, it's been crazy. It's been absolutely crazy. And I'm thankful for that. Very grateful. Hey Mark, how you doing? He says, has my wife been getting more into reselling? No, she had a very brief stint several years ago, and she is very successful at what she does in her career. It takes up a lot of her time, and she likes that. And so when she's not working, the last thing she wants to do is be working on something else. So I can't blame her for that. She absolutely kills it in her career. So she leaves the reselling to me. This is kind of my thing, my hobby. Feel free to drop questions in here as you go if you have any questions. But I do want to talk about sell-through because this is kind of the last piece with this and why it's so important for me. Now, when I was selling one-offs and Goodwills type stuff, and I was a solo reseller, and I didn't have scale at all, which by the way is a completely great model, and for a lot of people that's all they want, and that's I can completely appreciate that. I didn't focus on my sell-through as much because I didn't need to. Like my cash outlay each month was so minimal. I mean, I'm buying thrifted items. I'm buying them 100, 200 at a time on a weekend, like not a big deal. But then now that I'm spending, like I'm making usually like the smallest order I have is like a 2-pallet order of like 8 to 800 items or so. And so that's anywhere from for me, that's anywhere from 4 to 6,000, 4 to 7,000, depending on the mix that I'm getting. That's like twice a month for me that I'm handling. So when I have that type of cash outlay going, I need to make sure my sell-through is sustaining so that I don't ever want to be in a situation where my cash flow doesn't match my need to buy inventory to keep growing. And so it's not about just replacing what you're selling. Like my goal isn't just to replace what I sell. If that's the case, the cash flow isn't as big of a deal. My goal is to be, I'm trying to list double what I'm selling. Like that's basically what I'm trying to maintain a rate of listing twice as many items as I'm selling so that my store will keep growing. To do that, like to process that many items, it doesn't mean new fresh listings. It means new items. So a lot of times I get multi-quantity. To do that, I need to outlay a lot more cash. And so my sell-through has to keep maintaining and ramping to be able to handle that and keep growing. Reinvesting all my profit back into it helps enormously. But that sell-through just becomes so much more vital for me, balancing cash flow, balancing paying photographers and paying virtual assistants and doing all the things that come with that in the logistics is I need to make sure my sell-through maintains and is predictable. Like that's the other thing is, before I didn't care as much about the peaks and valleys. Now like predictable matters a ton. Being like finding a way to get the peaks and valleys into like a more normal range to be more predictive, like it matters a ton. And someone who's worked in finance my whole life, basically, like I'm used to, like I understand that. I worked with predictive type modeling and forecasting and things like that. But that's just a different beast. I never really thought about it from that perspective here because it's always been such a kind of a smaller side hustle. And now like getting into a little more scale, and I'm still tiny compared to most people, but like being at that scale, it's now actually important to be predictive and to kind of narrow that range and not have as many peaks and valleys, and to really be thoughtful about, as I'm receiving inventory, when I want to make those orders, like how many I'm processing this week versus next week, etc. So it's just very, very, very vital. So there's a couple questions in the chat. So Sherry just asked if I miss thrifting. Yes, I do miss thrifting. If I'm being completely honest, I definitely miss thrifting. I do miss the thrill of the hunt, but I like building things more than I liked the thrill of the hunt. So for me, it's very rewarding, the scale, like getting to scale, having people doing work like for your business and pouring value into it, managing the workflow around that. Like, that's just my personality. Prior to working in finance, I was the director of a Boys and Girls Club for like 5 years. So I used to do like the strategic planning, like the fundraising, like the managing of, about 20 employees. So I liked that feel. I liked working towards goals and building things. That's always my personality. So I do miss the thrifting, but I do like this. I would like to get to a point where I could thrift like once a week, just like hit a store for an hour, do a quick video, just look for home run items. I think I might get back to that eventually. Like, I really love the balance that like a Rally Roots has, right? Where they're at scale, they do wholesale, they do a lot of the big stuff, but they also take the time to thrift and do the stuff they love. And granted, like, they're full time doing that, so it's a little easier. Like, I'm working 9 to 5 and trying to scale, so the thrifting's kind of had to take a back seat just from a time commitment. But I would love to have more of like that type of model. And yeah, if you can hit the like button for me, guys, if you're enjoying the content, I would appreciate it. Lets YouTube know the content's good, lets me know that you're valuing the content, and a little motivational, selfishly, to keep making content. So appreciate that. Shout out, Tanya. So somebody said, what's the best way to sell item in a bulk way on eBay? So I've been getting allotting a lot. So basically, a good example is I get a lot of accessories. So like, I just was doing photos. Actually, the only thing I do photos of now really are my accessories for the most part. So I had a bunch of different like beanie type hats. And so I did like a lot of like 3 different Carhartt style ones. Like, I would put them together. I'll do like some like just basically lower like selling price items. I try to bundle in like ways that are attractive to a buyer. Like, I had a bunch of like Calia, the Carrie Underwood stuff. I had like it was like earrings and bracelet type stuff, like hair barrette things. And then I had like headbands and a set of gloves. And so I kind of bundled that all together because it's just like one size fits all type stuff to try to make it more attractive. So that's definitely a way to do that. Drummer just asked if I've done bulk shoe orders. So I have not done bulk shoe orders. I have the opportunity. My suppliers offered to me a couple times for shoe stuff. My biggest problem with shoes, it's not that I don't want to sell them, is space. So I'm 100% operating out of our house here. I have an attached garage, which I actually need to measure like the actual square footage. I was talking with Chris from Daily Refinement, and we kind of comparing how much it costs like per square foot to maintain X amount of items. And he got me really curious about it. So this weekend, one of my projects is to go measure and kind of square foot for square foot, how many items do I have stored effectively, and figure that out. But I have an attached garage, and I have a 10 by 12 storage shed. And then I have an attic, and you can see the bins behind me in my eBay room here for all my accessories. Like, that's my space. And so shoes are very challenging to have a large quantity of and store. So that I just haven't really made that jump into it, but that will be a part of my model at some point when I get bigger or have that capacity. I just don't right now. That's a great question. So someone said, so Tanya just asked, are you still creating your own listings even though photography is outsourced? That's an awesome question. So actually the only things I do in my business now for the most part are I source, so I receive my pallets, process them, and distribute them to photographers, and then I ship the items when they sell. And then obviously manage like all the accounting and things that go into that. And I'll do photography of my accessories because I use my photo cube, and occasionally I'll pinch hit, so to speak, and fill in and do photography, like if I have a break in the action, to make sure my VA stays busy. But my VA handles all of my listing, Tanya. So she basically takes all my photographers, they take the photos and the measurements, and they use like a whiteboard to put the measurements on, the colors, all those things. They load those photos into a Dropbox and the folders. My virtual assistant goes into those folders. She's fantastic. She's a writing background, really descriptive, has sold on eBay longer than I have, like knows the game really well. She'll go in and she will write full descriptions, full listings, start to finish on InkFrog for every single item. And then she cross-posts it onto Poshmark for me. So she does that all at once. And then she also handles the delisting. So when something sells, she removes it from the other platform for me. So literally start to finish, I don't have to worry about that, which honestly is huge for me, because I don't like listing. Like that was my least favorite part, was actually drafting the listings. She does my pricing too. She's very good about the researching and understanding the pricing in the market. So she does my pricing. She just sets them live. So it's been fantastic. I got very, very lucky with IVA. She's very valuable to my business. So I just want to make sure I don't miss any questions here. So Mark said, do you think you can get to a point where you can step away and the business runs itself? Yeah, I think eventually I can get there. I could even envision, so it's funny, the question I get all the time is, are you ever going to leave your job? Are you going to leave your job and do this full time? And I don't know. That's the best answer. Not anytime soon. Like socially, I like going to the office. I like having coworkers. I like the mental break from this. And I still can grow it while doing that. Like I over the next 2, 3, 4 years, I can grow a ton out of this space, getting more efficient, maximizing what I have going on, maybe add a storage shed in the future. Like I can do so much with this model, and I've really created the foundation for it now, all the investment in it. And now it's getting ready to hit its stride with the economy of scale, where my cost to grow is so limited now because I've built the infrastructure that was so expensive in the beginning. I've ironed out a lot of the kinks. So I can't foresee like doing that on my own, but I can foresee this running itself by itself. I could even foresee in the future still having my 9 to 5, having a commercial space I bought, having a warehouse type manager, and the entire operation running without me there. Like I could definitely see building something like that. I love process. I love building things like that. Like that would be like the ultimate fun challenge for me if I ever could do that. So hopefully that answers your question, Mark. Oh, that's a great question. Mark also asked, now that you know, what would you do differently if you were starting out? So if I wouldn't do anything different starting out from like when I sold at Goodwill's. I think that's the best way to learn reselling, is like the used market, the one-offs, the treasure hunting, like the understanding drafting listings, creating your own inventory, all that stuff. I think is the best way to do it, is learn it and to do it yourself. What I wish I had done differently when I kind of made the plunge with the liquidator and my supplier, I wish that I'd taken more time up front to iron out my processes. I got so overwhelmed with the commitment of how many items I had to take that I sacrificed a lot of quality and coaching opportunities just because I had to get the stuff processed and up and out of the way. And it hurt my business, short term and even a little bit long term, because a lot of stuff I had to redo or change. I wish I had just taken a step back and been like, all right, like holistically, like what's going to really hurt you or help you here? But honestly, it's just hard to like say I would do it different, because like without making those mistakes and just doing it, I don't know that I would have figured it out. And like I can tell you all day long how to try to figure it out, but making the mistake made me a better reseller. So I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of a weird way to answer it, but so somebody said, thanks for the awesome videos. With your experience in hindsight, would you have made the move to buy wholesale sooner to sell the new tags? Are the profits better? How's the laptop? I wouldn't have made the move sooner. So I needed all the time I had prior to that to build capital, because it's the one thing that I think people overlook a bit with buying liquidation is the capital commitment. Like you're investing a lot up front that's going to take a while to recoup. And if you haven't built a really solid base of sales with the used stuff, with like the capital and reinvesting like every dollar you have back into it to have the available capital, like it takes time to buy it, to list it, to get the sell through, to recoup the money. You got to be playing the long game when you're thinking about that. And I don't think I would have done it any sooner. I think I did it in the right timing for me. I might have done it even a little too soon, but it was one of those things where it was like, if I didn't jump on this opportunity with this specific supplier, someone else was going to, and I just need to do it to lock it up. So yeah, the profits aren't better per item. So that's like one thing. Like I'm not making more per item now than I did when I sold other stuff. I made way more per item selling a suit for $70, $80, $100 I was buying for 10. Like I made way more than that. My average like flip right now when I'm talking to wholesale is like average cost of goods blended down probably across all different genres and stuff that I get is about maybe $6. If you consider like sometimes I get like those umbrella lots where I'm paying you like $2 an item. Sometimes I'm paying $9 an item. Sometimes the general I'm getting is somewhere like around the high 6s to low 7s for a lot of stuff. But let's just say blended we're at 6. And my average sell price is like that $27, $28 range. So, 6 and 27, 28. So it's like, that's like the average. Now I get a lot of home run stuff too. Like I just got a bunch of North Face gloves that came in this last one. They'll sell for $50 a pop, right? And they're super cheap to ship. North Face snow pants, coats. I get a lot of big home run. I posted on Instagram the other day, like the waders, like these awesome Drake like hydro waders. They'll sell for like $200. So there's a lot of like high end stuff too. You get some home runs, but people don't understand that you're buying time. So like when you switch to this, I'm buying time to not have to individually source myself at Goodwill's. I'm buying a system, I'm buying scale, right? And so you're sacrificing margin a little bit as you do that. So it's just something to consider as you think about it. It's not as glamorous or like, it's not as big of an upgrade as you think if you're not prepared capital and you're not compared with the systems and things like that. Let's see what else we have. Yes, I'm on Poshmark as well. Every item I have is listed on eBay and Poshmark. My next task is I'm going to figure out how to sell merchant fulfilled with as many items that are eligible as possible. I sent some stuff into FBA. I'm still going to send some stuff into FBA, but I'm really trying to battle back and forth with the velocity of higher sales rank items on FBA versus having it listed on eBay and Poshmark and then merchant fulfilling it. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I'm definitely going to start testing it. That's kind of my project for the end of Q1, is to figure out how to make that work. Yeah, Mark just said that I need to do what Garage Flips does for, that's another YouTube personality. He does great content, but he brought in a shed for more space. Yeah, I've already done that. So like, this last fall, I brought in a 10 by 12 shed and it's full, right? Like I'm doing those things. I also have a wife and a life here at my house. So I have to be very considerate of not turning it into too much of a warehouse look here. She already wants to kill me sometimes with all the pallets and stuff outside. So there's a lot of balance to that, but it's a good suggestion for sure. So Sherry just said it's definitely hard working full-time with the commute time added in. I went from working to an office job. It's been a struggle. You're definitely proof it can be done. So thanks for that. Well, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely a juggle. All right. And when stuff goes wrong in the middle of the day and I'm at work, it's like there's only so much I can do. Like even customer service type stuff. Like a lot of times I can't go look up something for a question I have and I inventory them until like way later in the night because I have the job during the day. Or thank goodness USPS picks up packages, right? Like I don't ever go to the post office. They pick them up during the day, but that means I can't get them scanned right away. Like, so there's just a lot of give and take with this model. So I'm gonna take a couple more questions. I got 5 more minutes, guys. I'm gonna wrap up. Got some plans this afternoon. I'm gonna meet some friends. Let's see. Mark said the first wholesale you did with the pants, have you sold all the inventory and was it a profitable purchase? Oh, great question. So before the supplier, my very first bulk buy experience was actually Chris from Daily Refinement found the opportunity, but it was on the East Coast. He was in the West, so shipping didn't make sense for him to pull the trigger on it, but it was 3,000 pair of shelf pull LL Bean pants. It was like 65% were women's, 35% were men's. I would say about 25% had tags. The other 75% didn't. Got them for like $1.15 a unit, including shipping. So super cheap. I wish I could find deals like that. They don't exist that very frequently. I don't think the guy actually knew what he had when he sold them. But yes, to answer your question, it was a very profitable buy. I made my money back within 6 months. And I still sell probably 7-8 pair a week. I probably sell like a pair a day on average still, and probably will continue. I've got less than 1,000 of them left. I think I got like 850 was last time I looked at the quantity. Someone can check my eBay store on me on that, but yeah, very profitable. It was a great first experience. It taught me a lot about the value of space with unpacking pallets. I made so many mistakes with that. So it was a really good lower investment bulk buy with high quantity to really figure out the ins and outs and what I wanted to do different. Tanya's the same here. I cross post a lot. Merchant fulfilled is easy. Yeah, Tanya, I need to get into it. It's definitely missing opportunities. There's no doubt Amazon has the most eyes of any platform. So not having stuff on there, I'm really missing out. And she just said that her husband wants to kill her sometimes too with all of my quote unquote inventory. Yeah, I can relate. I have a very amazing wife that is extremely patient with my passion. So I am very appreciative and indebted to her that she allows me to play and grow like this at our house and make it look like a mess sometimes. Like right now I have 8 pallets outside that I need to find a buyer for and get them out of there, or she might kill me. Someone said build a fire pit for late night honey time and pallet burning. Yeah, actually, so this spring, fire pit is on the agenda. So I got to repair some of our porch and do that. I'm trying to balance doing house projects with that to make sure we keep some good balance. Tanya just said, I've been really motivating today. Thank you. Good. Well, I'm glad. I appreciate you stopping in. I love your content, Tanya. You know I do. Wish I could visit more often down in Texas and see you guys. Hopefully all is well with the family. And thank you, drummer. Appreciate it. If there's no more questions, I'll probably wrap up. I'll wait another like 10 seconds, see if any more fill in. But otherwise, I'm going to get a couple more photos to do. And then we're actually taking Bruno. Someone asked how the new dog was doing. So we have 2 golden retrievers. So I have Thor, who's like a little over 3. Then we just got a puppy back in Thanksgiving time, another golden retriever. So he had a little brother. So he's approaching 6 months now, basically. He's doing fantastic. He's definitely going to be smaller than Thor, which is kind of cool. He has like the opposite personality. He's very cuddly, which is great. Just completely different quirks than Thor had, which has been really cool. And yeah, it's been really cool. I'm glad we got him. It was a really good decision. Thor is not a very independent dog, and so having someone to play with has been a pretty cool thing for him. But we're actually taking the dog to meet another of our friend who has a puppy, and going to go hit a brewery and just let them play. We're trying to start slowly socializing Bruno, the little guy. Thor, we took everywhere with us when we had him, our older dog. Like we traveled with him. We went to breweries nonstop. We just took him everywhere. Dog parks. And this one, because we have the yard now, we didn't have a yard with Thor at first. We were in an apartment. They just play outside all the time, and so he hasn't had a lot of socialization. So we're a little behind the ball in that. We need to start getting him out, and so we're going to make an effort today to do that. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up. If you're rewatching this later, please leave comments below. If you're watching now, comments below. Love to hear your perspective on the free shipping and kind of the dynamics of that. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button just so you get notified every time I make a new video. That way, hopefully, you can interact and let me know how it is. Let me know, give your feedback. I appreciate that as always. If you're not following me on Instagram, check me out, Endless Entrepreneurs. That is the fastest way. If you have a question, DM me. I'll get back to you. I do answer all the comments in the chat, but they're usually a little more delayed than Instagram just because I'm on there a little more frequently. So have an awesome day, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care.